are now tuned into The Money Zone.
Hey guys, welcome to the Money Zone. I'm your host, Folasade, the Accountability Accounting Guys, and I am so excited to be here with you guys on another Tuesday. Today is the second episode of Season 8 on RadioNetwork.com, and as promised, guys, we have special guest in the building as promised throughout the year, guys. So tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about how can we overcome obstacles and bring about change in very tough situations. So guys, I have a special guest, Mr. Michael Anderson. He's a Black architect, and he's going to talk about his book Urban Magic, about his idea that Black communities can prosper with the right tools, with the right strategies, with the right resources. Our communities can prosper just like any other community. So guys, if you're interested in tonight's topic, hearing about our architect, Michael Anderson, tune in, share tonight's video, guys, so we can talk about how he's making change and how you and we can make change within our territory. Okay, so tune in, guys. Don't forget to grab your pen and grab your paper, because per usual, we always drop some gems that you guys can apply into your business. And also, please join our mailing list by going to bit.ly/Folasade Radio. So guys, I had to change the link because TMZ get notified, TMZ. I always get confused. So go to bit.ly/Folasade Radio. So you guys can subscribe to our mailing list, learn about our upcoming guests, and what we have going on with the radio show. So guys, what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick little break for you guys to grab your pen, your paper, and whatever drink that you're going to be drinking with us while you're watching tonight's show, and give you some time to share and like the video. If you're watching this video live on social media, please guys, please share it and like it, because it helps with the algorithms. I remember we're trying to serve this 2022 year, and so for me to serve, I do need you guys to share. And don't forget, guys, if you have to catch the replay within 24 hours after the show, you can catch the replay at RadioNetwork.com. And after 24 hours, guys, you can catch all replays on everywhere a podcast is housed. So you're talking about Apple, iHeart, everywhere podcast is housed. So grab your pen, grab your paper, grab your drink, and we'll be right back. guys. Welcome back to the Money Zone. I'm your host, Folasade, the Accountability Accounting guys. And guess what? As I said earlier during our intro, we have a special guest, a Black architect, Michael Anderson, guys, coming to talk about how he overcame obstacles and brought about change with his book, Urban Magic. So Mr. Anderson is an alumni of South Carolina Institute of Architecture. He is a licensed architect with more than 35 years of experience in urban planning, transit, and community development. Mr. Anderson is a published author. His first book, titled The Challenge of Change: Internal Obstacles of Preventing Economic Growth of Black Communities of Los Angeles. Mr. Anderson's newest book, Urban Magic, provide the nation's Black and brown thought leaders, economic and finance-oriented public policymakers, business leaders, progressive and somewhat conservative, university-based political allies, architect planners, and students with a virtual operating manual for effecting big change within communities of color. So he wrote the book called Urban Magic. So I'm giving you the kind of like the synopsis of that. Urban Magic is a vibrant Black and brown communities where Black and brown communities are possible, offers a powerful argument for confronting the epidemic and long-standing obstacles to economic growth and development within the Black and brown neighborhoods in Los Angeles. Guys, help me welcome Mr. Michael Anderson to the Money Zone. Yes, look, and we was in the studio. Trump will already had the clapping and everything. That's
How are you?
I'm finding you.
Well, thank you for having me on your show. I'm honored to be here.
Yes, thank you for joining us. And it's perfect time because it's the beginning of the year. And this is when everybody talk about the change they want to make in their lives, the change that they want to do this, the change in their diet, lifestyle, this. So for you to have your show come on right now at the beginning, it's perfect timing because, guys, back in the day, we normally were thinking about change and like policies, for us to be created equal or change within our personal family lifestyles. But now we have so much access to resources right now. We can eradicate change on a more larger scale and on a more kind of interchangeably scale with your community, my county, your state, and just make change. So this is the time. So thank you so much for joining us and coming on the show. I'm excited to really talk about your book and what you're doing.
Okay. So where should I start?
Look, so first of all, where are you making change? Where are you making impact? What are you doing over there in Los Angeles?
Well, I'm focused on Los Angeles, but really my experience and the things I'm concerned about is pretty much every Black and brown community across the United States. Because, I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. It had a huge economic decline after I left. Went to high school in New York and Jamaica, Queens, and I just saw how Black and brown communities, when I was growing up in the late 60s, early 70s, were great middle-class communities, but they evolved and declined and died. Los Angeles, fortunately, is so diverse culturally, and there's such a housing shortage. Our communities have a need for housing, and they're starting to get a lot of gentrification that's causing displacement of Black and brown families that have been there historically. And so I've also done a lot of studies for redevelopment agencies and the transit authorities to make Black and brown communities great places. But those studies never translate into actual projects that restore the life of the community and make them successful as other communities we tend to have to leave our neighborhoods to go visit. And so that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, was because after the riots in 1992, I went on a journey to try to develop about 4 projects worth about $17 million. And got burned on 3 of them. And the only thing the political leadership at that time allowed me to build was the affordable housing, which was great because it was ownership housing. But the problem I saw was we need more projects, and I saw the internal obstacles that were going on, also by residents, based on fear of change. That fear of change created a barrier that stopped even Black people that have capital that want to invest from investing into our communities.
Wow.
So that's pretty much why I wrote the book, Urban Magic, which vibrant Black and brown communities shortly do a commercial, this is the book.
No, you're fine.
But it was to write about my experience, why I wanted to become an architect. And the reason I wanted to become an architect was to find a strategy to change our communities to become great places. And so about 3 years ago, Senator Elizabeth Warren, put out a bill to fund Black and brown communities up to about $474 billion to make amends for redlining. And that bill got squashed and never even came out to committee. But that inspired me to come up with a strategy for Los Angeles based on the Biden administration's executive order to make racial inequities and address it. And that was to come up with a home ownership program for middle income Black and brown families to get a fourplex where they get a home plus 3 income units in South Los Angeles, and use that as a tool to grow the local market economy of Black and brown communities, and then make a market where you get Trader Joe's and those stores coming in because they see their household incomes increasing. But to make it possible for a Black or brown person to purchase a fourplex, you would need about $300,000 or $400,000 in equity to put down. So we're lobbying the federal government to provide that equity to make amends. And it's based on a model of houses I built after the riots. The homes that I built after the riots were just basically a townhouse. They sold for $154,000, but I negotiated $54,000 in grants so that single parent women with 2 kids could purchase a house with little as $8,000 down. Today, those houses are worth $675,000. So imagine if you did that with a couple being able to buy a fourplex, right?
Yeah.
And then imagine if you, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Let me take a step back, because it was one thing that stood out to me when you originally said you didn't say necessarily funding was the issue. You said funding was slightly the issue. Then having people inside to get your permits and contract and everything else was the issue. But you said mindset was also key, that we wasn't susceptible to change and have a difficulty. So are you learning on this journey? Because I've learned that for us to really make impact within our community, we have to shift their mindset and get them on somewhat of a level playing ground so they can kind of understand the moves that we're making. Or you think that we can skip the mindset part and go and provide them with the resources and we'll be okay?
I think you have to provide them with the product that shifts the mindset. So that's why one of the components of the accelerated equity housing and transit development for Black and brown communities is called Remodel Mom's House. Okay. Basically remodeling Mom's House on steroids. In LA, we have a housing shortage. We need 550,000 units of housing today. So that means you can have a huge absorption if you had the right product. Remodeling Mom's House is turning Mom's House into a courtyard fourplex where it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath for her kids and grandkids to rent. And then there's 2 1-bedroom units that could be rented to additional family members and friends. Mom would get $100,000 in equity for the government, making amends for redlining. The land cost is taken out because she owns the property. But basically, for around $7,000 a month, she could pay the debt service, operating costs, and insurance based on the rents. But then you have a social profit because the kids and grandkids live with mom, right? And in Los Angeles, in order for you to get affordable housing, you have to live like 90-minute drive away. So you'll never see your mother or father until the weekend or maybe once or twice a month. By remodeling Mom's House, it changes the mindset because suddenly she has the new Tesla. These houses basically have solar panels, batteries to store the energy, and you run your energy, your air conditioning and heating system off the batteries. Thus, you cut your electrical costs. At the same time, they have gray water piping that collects water from the sinks to water the grass. All this combines to where you make the mental change because suddenly mom has the new car, the new Cadillac, the new Mercedes, the new Tesla. And then that makes other neighbors and Black and brown people say, I want the same thing. Yeah. And that's how you get the younger generation to move back into the community they were born in. And then the retail market will accelerate the businesses that they tend to, the vibes, their friends that become entrepreneurs and open coffee shops and restaurants, they'll come to the commercial corridors of that community. And that'll create the new vibrancy that bring other people from other cultures outside the community to visit our communities, just like we go to other communities and visit there.
So let me ask you a question. So where's the win-win? If we are really trying to, let's say we can get Los Angeles people to approve this bill for you, and we want to replicate this across the states. Where is the win-win? If I wanted to take this and present it to my constituents here, where's the win-win for them? How can we convince them that it's a mutually beneficial plan for them to profit, for us to profit, and for us to clean up this? What is the plan? Like, how can we use the as leverage? Where's the leverage?
So this is a large scale strategy. It involves building 50,000 new fourplexes around transit stations in the Black and brown communities. And then it calls for remodeling 50,000 existing homes in the mom's house. Basically, it translates to you're remodeling 2,600 units within a mile radius, and you're putting in 2,600 new units in a mile radius. What that does is for LA, in our $500,000 housing shortage, we bring on 300,000 units of housing over a 7 to 10 year period. The win-win is by the government seeding it with the equity, making amends for redlining these communities in the past. It makes a bank attractive to the lender as a first-time buyer because they're only financing 65% of the debt. You're not doing a 90-20 loan, 90-10 loan or 80-20 loan, right? The person has equity in it. The other thing about it is the banks like it because if you lose your job, you still have 3 income units producing rent. So you still can meet your debt service. The other advantage is we tend to have like a 2 to 3% average increase in rent annually. That's how the family gets the accelerated equity because you're not just getting equity in your house, you're getting equity off 3 income units that rise. So in 10 years, if you want to pull equity out to put your kid in college, you're not pulling it out of your house, you're pulling it out of income units. So you're not losing any value. You're not taking any risk. The win-win for the nation is, well, there's another component. The concentration of that number of housing units increases the property taxes in that area. And when property taxes go up, cities can do more services. That's one of the things that hurts Black and brown communities is we don't have the tax revenues to pay for the public services that need to go on a weekly basis, right?
And that's across the country. Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing is you want to leverage that investment that's coming in through the housing products and then lobby to do streetscape projects where you put streetscapes in, new sidewalks with landscaping. They have pedestrian lighting, not street lighting. If you notice, a lot of Black and brown communities, they light the streets, but the sidewalks are dark, so it's still not safe to walk down when it gets dark early in the wintertime. This is to make a whole streetscape project where you start layering the community's quality of life, you make it safe. There are other components of turning alleys into extensions of backyards, because you know a lot of alleys is the garage and that's the backyard. Well, if you make those play areas for kids to play and put gates at the end with remote controls only for the homeowners to use, suddenly that becomes a lighted path, an extension, and you create a community it's not a danger zone. You make it a safe zone. So that's how the win-win comes up, Folasade, where you start building the tax base, you're increasing the average household income, and that's when government starts to say, we want to help you do this. Then you can go to the federal government and leverage the amount of private capital going in, and you go directly to DOT and say, we want funding for this streetscape project. A lot of officials, especially Black and brown officials, don't know how to leverage projects against another project to ask for additional funding.
And see, that's why I asked you, what is the win-win? Because I've noticed that when we try to push any of our programs, they don't really get far. So I totally agree with what you're saying. Right. And what I'm realizing is one is either because we want them to admit some wrongdoing rather than just forget about it and move to the business. Right. So in your particular case, I see that you are connecting the dots between redlining and generational wealth. So just so we're clear, can you tell the people from your perspective, because I'm gonna land with this, can you tell the people from your perspective, what is redlining and how does that impact us building generational wealth? And then I'll connect with my
redlining started back in, I think, like the 1930s. Redlining was created, actually, if you know, in the 1920s and 30s, a lot of Black and white people lived in the same neighborhoods and communities. There may have been some little segregation based on income. But redlining, what happened is when developers started building suburban communities, that also funded with the highway program, this came out of the Roosevelt administration, an organization that started here in California under the Los Angeles Realty Board and the Homeowners Loan Corporation. They realized that they could extract white middle-class working men from inner city urban areas to go live in the suburbs. But they created a false story that it had to be for white only.
Mm.
And then they lobbied to get the government to consider valuing communities based on colors. And I think it was red, green, blue, and yellow, right? Blue, I think, was like a high value community. Green was like mediocre, middle class. Yellow was cautionary. Red was primarily Black, brown, Jewish, and Italian neighborhoods. That basically meant the government wouldn't back guarantee any loans in those communities. Basically, it was a real estate strategy that was driven by greed. And that's one of the problems in America. Greed makes everything happen first, and then they look at the results second. But that's how redlining started. And over the years coming forward, Black and brown communities were always redlined, basically meaning they would not get FHA guaranteed loans and things. Developers started building entire communities. I think LA County had something like 1,400 subdivisions built in like 2 years.
Wow.
They were all redlined, basically. You couldn't move in there. But they knew they had to sell maybe one unit to a Black person, and they would do it. But that Black person would get harassed and ran out of the community right after they bought the home. So redlining is what caused the economic collapse. It prevented Black and brown families from owning a home. And then you fast forward, when they try to fix it in the 70s, it's kind of too late, because you've already spent several generations of families not having home ownership and not having equity and having the value that white folks have. And that's why I think the value is something like 13 times the value of the white household's net worth versus the Black and brown's net worth. And that's the problem. So one of the things is I'm saying, since the Biden administration said they want to make amends, is come up with a strategy that works at a large scale, that makes an impact, that makes bankers in the industry say, we want to do this again, right? And that way, if you put $30 billion up for 100,000 families, the banks will provide $90 billion. They're going to make about $140 billion over 30 years interest.
That's the number you got to talk to them for. They don't care about everything else you can say, Mr. Anderson. They care about that number right there. That if they perform, if they allow this to go across the nation, that they will make how much? 140 billion.
That's just on those 100,000 units. So when you start replicating that across, and in LA, we would need to do that 2 more times just to solve our housing need.
Okay.
So in California, the state, we would need to do it 11 times. So when you start taking that type of math, and if you just multiply 150 billion times 10, you got you in one.
At this point, what support do you need to get it started? See, because that's where, guys. Well, let me land first. What I was about to say. And then I'm going to ask you what support and stuff you need. Well, first of all, guys, just so we can kind of put all of this conversation in perspective, Mr. Anderson is an architect, and he is trying to make change. He's trying to repair us from the pain and suffering that we have endured from not being able to get fully in the door of home ownership and start the way 30, 40 years ago. So now he's coming with a solution to save grandma's house, allow you and your family to get in the door and get multiplex, duplexes, and all of this stuff. However, guys, he cannot make the change if he don't come on shows like mine and you guys support him, when he's out lobbying. Because when he first introduced him, guys, he said he's lobbying, meaning he's going to politicians and saying, hey, here's an opportunity. Hey, and knocking on everybody's door, guys. It takes money and it takes support to be able to lobby. So now here's what the real problem is. If he cannot present this win-win and have a strong backing from us, then we may never be able to bridge the gap between generational wealth, guys. This is really the time. I don't care if all of us that's watching me right now and all the millions of people, Black people that may even make $1 million because we have free enterprise on Instagram and Facebook right now, and we think it's easy, guys, without having a easy access to real estate and to be able to make sure our home sustain its value and to make sure that we do receive some type of reparations for what we've endured, whether that's slavery, whether that's redlining, whether that's discrimination, whatever the case may be. We can never really move forward and be self-sustainable as a community. And so right now he's coming up with a plan to get a lot of the veterans off of the streets Okay, government, veterans on the street, off the street, and a lot of the Black and brown people in Los Angeles. And it's so interesting that you come on the show this time because somebody posted, what's that street? Slug something. They said it's like 5,000, 10,000 homeless people just on one LA strip.
Mhm.
And your Mr. Anderson is trying to combat that, guys. And so why is this important to you? And why is this important to all of us? Is because, guys, you can be just like him and want to make change right where you are, right in the business that you're in. You just haven't gotten past the full purpose part. He's sounding like you're operating in your full purpose right now. It
Okay.
may have taken you a few years to get here, but it's not like you're operating your full purpose. So, guys, many of you are looking at communities that's dying, and you're seeing elderly's dying without family members. You're seeing so many issues that we're faced right now.
Mhm.
And all of you can step up and figure out how you can put yourself in, make some change, and then hopefully get some funding and stuff from this tight government. Well, for us anyway, this tight government, so you can live on and really help the community. So now, in your case, so you're lobbying. Where do you need help? Like, what do you need from us? What type of support? What do you need right now to be able to push this?
Well, there's two strategies. You have to do what's called consensus building. Consensus building is to get other people to buy in because it's in their interest,
Mhm.
right? And so in Los Angeles, I'm doing that as a combination of political interests, county supervisors, staff like that, but then also working to get the financial institutions to see this as a business opportunity for them.
Yes.
So I'm focusing on Los Angeles, but for each city where we have an urban, pretty much Black urban area, it's about 22 of them in the United States. We have the opportunities to come up with the strategies in each of these cities. We also, but see, that has to come from the heart of the community.
See,
You have to figure out what that deal is, and you have to make it at a scale large enough that other people want to participate. And so I can't design the solution right now for the other cities because I'm not there.
right.
But I am focused on making it happen here in Los Angeles. Now, you could call this reparations, but really we're making a deal large enough that makes other investors want to participate, right? So Los Angeles has a huge Black wealth here in our community, but there's no deals for them to invest into. Our strategy involves teaming with large realtors where we have small realtors as subcontractors. So when we acquire the land, that local realtor automatically gets a commission. And that way, that money goes into a household in the community. But that's the type of economic chemistry, and that's the key thing. You have to understand how to design and program an economic chemistry that becomes self-sustaining, where it grows upon itself. It can't be just one deal. There has to be something large enough that attracts the large non-Black financial institutions. But one of our strategies is the people that receive the federal subsidies, their money the loan comes from a Black bank. And so we're lobbying that the large bank would loan the money to a Black bank,
Yeah.
the grant recipient, because we minimize the risk. But that way, that Black bank earns 1% interest on the capital. So that way, you turn it into start making $700-800 million a year. That makes a Black bank bankable. And so that's really where you have to think. It's like a chess game.
Yeah.
You want to think it where all the moving parts, when what's key is make it mutually beneficial to everyone, right? Because one thing I want to say is racism bows down to profit. And the bus boycotts of the 1950s demonstrated that when Black people said, we're going to walk if you don't let us move to the front of the bus. And then that's when the laws changed. Not the laws, but the rules change, right, of the game. So as more of us Black folks can figure out how to make a market economy in our communities that becomes self-sustaining, and you have a right to ask the federal government to seed it, but then you have an ongoing process. It's not one deal. It's making a multiple deals simultaneously that nurture value in each deal and gives it additional value where people want to come back and do another deal. And understand real estate cyclical, so you want to move with those cycles. But as long as you're generating profits in our communities, then white folks, even if they're racist, will provide you the funding you need to make it possible.
So basically, you're saying all of these big brands online there, y'all need to be going back in your community, basically, so we can rehabilitate them. That's basically what you're saying.
Black and brown communities are
the
gold
first ones to show that it's successful. We can make money,
Mm-hmm.
and then other people will buy into the product. Oh gosh. Okay, guys, this is a collective effort. Oh wow. Because what we normally do, make the big bank and run.
Right.
Like even the community I grew up in, I drove past, they already knocked everything down. They're gentrifying that area right now.
Where is that, in DC or something?
Yeah, right off DC. Yeah, in Kenilworth. It's completely, all of the buildings are down.
Yeah, my sister lives in DC. It's changed. But so you look at a lot of Black communities now, the houses are worth $1 million.
Yes.
But one of the things that you want to do is you want to nurture our communities to become better places. And also you want to take advantage of diversity, because a community can be Black, but it's still going to be multicultural. And you can have higher incomes and moderate incomes living in a community that can make a great place. Diversity is power. In Los Angeles, diversity is what's making LA County so vibrant, right?
Yeah.
It's making it a huge market. We have 160 languages here.
Wow.
So you want to use diversity. A pure Black community is not going to be as fun as a diverse community, right? And you want to take
fundable as far as we concerned. Well, yeah, they won't. Yeah, it's not going to be easy fundable either. So, guys, me and Mr. Anderson just having a whole little conversation, guys, because I'm finally getting. Yeah, y'all should know me by now. I'm real quiet with nothing really to say, y'all know I'm kind of learning and hearing things out and see where I can fit in and really ask the core questions that we need to ask our guests, so you guys can evoke change, learn, and make impact in your lives. So, guys, before we go to this quick break, I just want to recap that we're actually diving into why all of you guys are necessary for us to make change in the world. Like if everybody's complaining about, oh, it's too many homeless people, oh, it's too much trash, oh, it's this. Did you ask yourself when the last time you fed a homeless person or paid for a hotel room or sponsored them? When was the last time you got out the car and picked up trash from the street? Guys, we're now in this 2022 time where it's time for all of us to really come back to the core of our core values and morals and things that we were brought up with, not to throw nothing out the window. You know your mother ain't let you really do that. Like, come on now. Go back to the core of what we were built upon to really make change, because us just moving to the suburbs, of us just thinking that, oh, because our family is okay, that society is okay. Guys, we are actually dying as a whole. It's the few of us that's making it look like we looking real pretty, y'all. But in totality, it's over 40 plus million of us. And it's about 1 million of us that are maybe doing, 2 million of us that might be doing success, 3 million maybe. What about the rest of our people, guys?
Can I say something to you about the homeless situation real fast? So in Los Angeles, the homeless situation, you see more Black people than any other. They make up the largest percentage. There's 2 reasons for that. One is they were priced out of the community where they were renting. And once you lose a house, it's hard to get a job or get anything. That's one. The other part of the homeless situation in Los Angeles is that, and people may not remember this, when Ronald Reagan changed the taxes, he cut mental health services back in 1980s. I happened to be an architect on a project for a mental health facility. And I'll never forget coming back, architects coming back, they let go about 150 mentally disturbed people to walk out in agriculture fields to find their way. So if you think about that, that means we've had 2 generations of mentally disturbed people homeless, producing children.
Oh, God.
So when you see somebody mentally disturbed harm somebody, you have to think that's where the United States didn't look forward, that what am I going to do with these they really let them go. We were remodeling a project. Where did those 400 people go? They said to the fields. I said, you got to be kidding. They took them someplace. They did not. They walked. And that's when people don't realize the consequences of federal decisions impact on our communities. But situations because Black and brown people are priced out. Predator lenders take advantage of them.
DC here that we're pricing out.
Right.
DC properties pricing
out. So that's the purpose of getting the fourplex, is to help Black families get generational.
See, this is the thing, Mr. Anderson. We have to understand that going back home doesn't mean you failed or you quit or you're not successful.
The home's a gold mine nowadays.
Going back home means that you can save and rebuild. And I wish my mother was still alive for me to be able to go back home if I wanted to and start all over if I had the opportunity. So it goes back to what we initially started the conversation, guys, and we kind of missed the whole little break. But I'm gonna try to do my little break real quick. That goes back to our original starting point was mindset. It's not, guys, do you know the most successful people still live with their family until they're like 30, 33, until they got married and moved out and bought the house because they just saved for 15 years.
I know a lady who made her son live with her. His son was 30-something years old. He was in a real estate class with me at USC. And he still lived with his mother till he was almost 32 years old. His mother made him, when he was 19, start paying rent into an account.
See?
That rent into his account became a deposit to buy $1 million townhouse.
You see?
Right? You see? He has more girlfriends now. Why? Because he has $1 million townhouse. Now, most of us will want to get out and live our lifestyle. And I mean, I did the same thing. But we have to recognize now we have to nurture our next generation to be more successful. So kids, stay home. Make a deposit into an account that you would pay rent if you weren't living there, right? And then, save it up and go buy a house or something in the future.
Wow. Okay, guys, so we are hopefully evoking change on you and making impact on you guys while you're watching me, Mr. Anderson, talk about the change and impact that he's making over there in Cali. So, guys, do me one favor, head over to Instagram and please, please, please follow him. I think it's Urban Magic LA. I think I got it. Let me check that out. Yeah, Urban Magic LA. Please go follow him on Instagram. Message him, follow him. He needs your support, guys. Like, let me be honest. Before we go, before we go break, guys, the food drives is enough. It's good, y'all. I commend y'all. Thank you. But it's time for us to take it a little bit up, step it up a little bit, guys. Like, we still need to do the food drives. We still need to do the coat drives. We still need the toy drives, stuff like that. But we need to start joining initiatives like Mr. Anderson's here. So, guys, do me one favor. Follow him at Urban Magic LA, and we'll be right back. So your refund can still be high. Or if it's not the case, your refund would definitely be lower. So that's really a few of the reasons why many of you are going to be shocked, thrown back, taken aback, beat up, disturbed, might be crying in your feelings because your tax refunds are much lower than what you anticipated. Your business is right on that piece of paper that I can maximize, but guess what? Many of you guys took shortcuts in your business. You've been taking shortcuts for years. So you're out of luck right now. You're looking at that pile of paper and you like, yo, you serious, Folasade? Yes, I'm serious. And I'm very serious because right now your bookkeeping is what's going to either catapult your business or be a detriment to your business. And your lack of it is definitely a detriment, especially in the situation that we're in right now, where we all need to be maximizing our deductions and paying as little bit of taxes as we legally could so we can sustain in our businesses and be able to afford our lifestyle. But if you are not doing your bookkeeping, and if you're not keeping proper records, then I guarantee you are not paying the right amount of taxes that you're supposed to pay, or you're not getting the right amount of refund that you are supposed to be getting. So if you are a business owner, the way for you to protect your wealth, your income right now is by making sure you cross your T's and dot your I's and get your bookkeeper in order and stop playing games like you out here not trying to build a successful business. Only people that don't want to be successful don't have an accountant. Only people that don't want to be successful don't do their bookkeeping. And right now, your small business is maybe somebody else's blessing if you were to get your stuff in order. So you need your bookkeeping to make sure that every dollar you spend in your business is written off. Hey guys, welcome back to the Money Zone. I'm your host Folasade, the accountability accountant, guys, and I have Black architect Michael Anderson. We're talking about how he teaches and how you can evoke change, and he's doing that through real estate development and creating projects and programs for Black and Brown individuals in Los Angeles, guys. And we were going into, before we went to break, we were going into how you guys can join his initiative or set up your own initiative. And that we're in the space right now where we have to be the change makers. We are the change makers, guys. We cannot wait for another, hopefully, Martin Luther King in 15 years. Actually, we're the ones grooming them right now. One of your children might be the next one, but we have to put in the work to pave the way for them. So, guys, right now, if you guys just do me one favor, and though this is where I get a little bit practical, Mr. Anderson, with things. So, guys, if you guys could just do me one favor, write down one thing that really irks you, that really disturbs you about society. Is it the fact that we have homelessness? Is it the fact that we have poverty? Is it the fact that we have mental illness? What is it deep down in the core of your soul when you see it daily, when you see it on your timeline, it irks you? That might, if you write this down and do what I'm asking you, that might be part of your underlying passion down the line, because it has to be something that's going to keep irking you or being a problem and a pain or something that's going to allow you to have longevity in the game. And I don't know about you, Mr. Anderson, did this problem irk you for a long time? What triggered you getting started?
Watching communities die. I'm a child of the 60s. I was actually older than that, but watching the Black communities, I was in St. Louis watching them die. We had a service station, we had limousines, it was a great neighborhood. And then after the civil rights movement, when Black and brown families started moving to the suburbs, the communities died. I didn't know that then, but I learned now that was a part of the redlining, that caused that situation to exist. And but the answer, there's a couple of things. I think one thing's first is I think in our culture, we need to get more like Jewish culture in the sense to make sure we're constantly nurturing generational wealth and staying focused on it to where we do it ourselves. Yeah. Use the government now to make that foundation. But once we build a foundation, make it self-sustaining among its own. That if you're Black, you're wealthy, right? That won't be in my lifetime, but that can be within 2 generations at the most to be that point.
Hopefully my lifetime.
Because then if racist people don't like you, they will like your money, right? Yeah. And so if you're a billionaire, you can go any place. The thing that you asked about what really bothers me the most is how politicians exploit government for their own financial gain and sacrifice people's quality of life. And racism is the tool that's often used to make that happen. If the U.S. government was wealthy the way it could be, then we would not have a lot of these issues going on. And Black and Indigenous people are the bottom line group that always suffer the most in terms of racist practices. I think we could be a great place. Neighborhoods could be great if we overcome the racist practices that have made that. And as simple as making amends for past mistakes previous generations have made. By making amends, you come in with a plan to help get forgiveness, but you also nurture people to correct their lives. If I were to tear up your car, damage in an accident, making amends would be repairing your car, making sure you're healthy, compensating you for the time you were down so that your life gets back to where it should be. That's what we should do in all the urban areas. What I'm doing in Los Angeles, I want support for, but I really want everybody in other cities to start making their own strategies.
Yeah,
I will be helpful in communicating that. So you can contact me. I will help. One of the things I want to do is preach. And we know, make your own strategy, make it large enough that others want in. And then that's how you resurrect our communities to be great places, because our kids need to see change while they're growing up. Otherwise, they lose out. That's why we're the largest percentage of people in prisons, right? And we want to change that pipeline to poverty and so forth. So
I think we have a lot of work to do. It was
So if
kind
you make
of
the business,
it made me, this conversation actually made me a little uneasy because I'm more of a solution driven person. Right when we were talking, I just saw so many barriers, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, so how are we gonna get past this one? So my brain was just going through, but it's possible, guys. But we need each other now. Like if we don't, I don't think we can achieve what you truly want if we don't come together. Like we have to have some form of community. We have to act like the Jewish, treat each other a certain way, have a level of respect. It goes back to the core principles, what I said earlier, the core principles that we had. We were respectful of one another. We wouldn't do certain things to one another back in the day.
mhm, mhm.
And so, guys, and we're saying all of this to really let you guys know to really make change. We got to get back to what's of value, what's very important. And what's popping on the new Gucci, Louis Vuitton, what the celebrities talking about, that is entertainment used to distract you guys from diving deeper into your purpose and invoking that change. And a lot of this stuff is supposed to be used just to blindside you guys so you won't be tuned into Mr. Anderson stuff. So you won't go out and put out your own program and get guidance from him to start something in your states. But guys, really to make change, just start where you are. Is it a trash problem? Pick it up. If it's a mental health issue that you're passionate about, start there. If you enjoy being with the elderlies and you hate how they're mistreated, start volunteering at the home health agency up the street. Guys, it's time for us to really start where we are. Your plan don't have to be as big as Mr. Anderson's, right?
Right.
Yours can be a little piece of his getting catapulted, because if we see cleaner streets and investor drive past, just because you went to clean sweep, they might invest into a business right there because the streets was clean on the day they drove past. Guys, it's just those little things that really bring about the big change.
Well, Folasade, you can do a park project in a neighborhood that's a simple landscape project that kids can help landscape the project. That makes the kids take ownership that they're doing a beautiful park. It doesn't have to be big. The park project layers to another project.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do a small landscape project just by cutting the grass and planting some flowers, and you could make it a beautiful park just by doing a simple project with that to get kids in it. But one of the things when you were talking about the materials, the designer clothing and everything, we can make it cool to be Black by nurturing our communities.
Yes.
That to me is what we can do. The part of being Black is being cool enough that you nurture your communities, you nurture your kids to be self-sustaining. You help Black kids. And that's being Black. You don't have to be cool to be Black by being dangerous to another fellow brother. You can be cool being Black, giving love to your fellow brother and sister, and help them do a landscape park project where the kids can take pride in it. That's being Black. That's nurturing our culture. We have an obligation to those that died for us to have this freedom. I get insulted when a Black brother harms another brother just out of being belligerent.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what Black people died for you to be in a position, and what you're going to do, pull a gun on me?
I'm just over it all.
So we have to start adding that to our culture.
Yes.
As well. And, just tell a brother, you're not cool for being tough with me, but you're cool if you sit back there and go bust your ass to go to school and help take care of your kids. One of the things, we did a video on Market Street in Inglewood where we talked to kids about if we were doing these development projects. You watch them go from these tough guys to suddenly say, if I can get a job like that, I can get a house and take care of my son. That gave me goosebumps. Because I saw the brother's barrier to being tough was really because he felt he couldn't get a part of that economic activity that would entitle him to take care of his son. That's the reason why I want to do a large project, because that man really is just being tough only to protect the things that he just think he can't become a part of, that fear.
Yeah.
But if we can get him in beyond that fear, he wants to go take care of his son, right? And that will stop that pipeline of poverty to prison. So that's the larger purpose of this work.
I love it. I love it. And you got my support, guys. Please go follow Mr. Anderson. He needs all of our support. And as he said, guys, you can start change right where you are. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be so thought-provoking. You can just start just where you are, guys. And it just really actually requires us to do those little things to make our communities a better place, guys. And this is a time, 2022 is about the year of change, the year of abundance. And we all are learning so much. Just pull it all together, come together as one community, and dominate and become self-sustainable, guys. We are dependent on the government hand and foot, even the business owners, because they changed one law, some of us short too. So the reality is, guys, step up and do me one favor before we head out.
I have
Please
one thing to
follow
add. I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Hold on 1 second. Please follow Mr. Anderson at Urban Magic LA. Okay, hold on, guys. Go and follow his other one on Instagram, on Twitter, Urban Magic LA, and his LinkedIn, Michael Anderson Architect.
Okay, thank you. The last thing I want to say is for people, you can always go to HUD's website and find funding for the things you want to do to make changes in your community. You don't have to let the city do it. If you're a nonprofit or development corporation, you can go find those sources of money. I do it all the time. And that's how I leverage some of the funding and then go ask the city to get their funding. So that's all I wanted to say. Don't think you have to wait for the city official to point to you where the money. Go right on the federal government's website. You'll see it. And then they'll point you to the state allocations as well. That's how you leverage money against other sources to do your projects. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, he told you guys the source. So that's a good little tip and trick. So start there, then you know what to bid on, what projects, what works. You won't be spinning your wheels, guys. Go for the money. Mr. Anderson, thank you so much for joining us. I enjoyed. Keep changing and making impact, and have a good night. Guys, thank you so much. Good night.
Bye-bye.